Hello, everyone. Welcome to our Spiritual Spotlight series. Today, I am joined by Mike Martin. He was introduced to and exploring interdimensional portals and gateways for the past 26 years. He is the author of My Dark Explorations, Portals, Gateways, Astral. This is a cover of the book right there, which is a pretty cool cover. Mike, thank you so much for coming on the Spiritual Spotlight series. I'm happy you're here.
Thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here.
So tell us about what happened 26 years ago that you kind of were astral projecting and then suddenly you're redirected. So tell me about that experience.
Well, I'll start back when I was younger. I started having these experiences that I didn't know what they were.
Hmm.
And so at the time, it kind of frightened me. I was just maybe anywhere between the ages of 5 and maybe 10. I was sick a lot as a kid, and I would be laying in bed or just laying in bed when I woke up in the morning. And then the next thing I know, my face is right at the ceiling. So immediately I would just kind of go into panic mode, and then I was back and I didn't understand it. Of course, this is back in the early 70s,
Yeah.
mid 70s.
Nobody
So,
talked about this kind of stuff then.
oh no, this was non-existent back then. So I didn't mention it to anybody. I didn't want anybody to think I was weird. I didn't want to be
Hmm.
singled out. So I just kind of put it aside. Then when I was in my early 20s, the first time I read about out of body experiences, astral projection. I read about Robert Monroe's book, Journeys Out of the Body.
Hmm.
Great book, and I was totally intrigued. And then it wasn't until I had my first out of body experience, the controlled one, that I remembered that this is basically what I was having as a kid. So I kind of put the two and two together.
Yeah.
It took me from the time I read the book until the time I had my first experience was about a year.
Hmm.
So it was a year of just really pushing, training myself to become conscious during my dream so that I could use that as a gateway to get to the astral. And that's what I ended up doing.
So when you're traveling to the astral, you find yourself going into different portals and different dimensions now?
Well, the first controlled out of body experience
Yeah.
I had, I basically ended up on the side of my house. It was probably midnight. It was in the wintertime. And I was kind of hovering over 10 foot off the ground over in the side of my house, just looking around, and I was completely amazed that I was successful. And I
Yeah.
knew at that point, yeah, this is true. I believe it. I had to convince myself.
Hmm.
So at that point, then I came back into my body, and then I said, okay, now that I've actually succeeded, I should be able to, progress much faster than I had.
Yeah.
And that didn't happen that way. I kept trying the same methods, and it just wasn't working for me. And then maybe 6 months or more later, I tried again, became conscious in a dream. And instead of being pulled out and going into the astral, I was pulled back into bed with my eyes closed, laying on my side. It was fully conscious. And that's when the first portal appeared. So I could have at any time opened my eyes. And when these portals, when they occur,
Hmm.
I could at any time open my eyes. But if I do, it breaks the connection.
Mm.
So I saw this oval shape in the black background of what you see when you're in a dark room, sleeping, with your eyes closed. And it was an aerial view, kind of at an angle of a ocean city. And then around it had a bunch of symbols that I didn't understand. It looked
Hmm.
like some kind of a writing, but I had no idea. So I sat there for about maybe 20 to 30 seconds and just kind of in amazement. I was like, wow, what's this? And then it just faded away. And that was the first time that it happened in the mid 90s. And then after that, since then, I've had hundreds of them.
Yeah.
They appear, I become conscious in a dream. I'm immediately pulled out of the dream and to there. So basically, I bypass the astral. I basically can't enter it, but these portals are appearing, and they come with information,
Mm.
uh, just all kind of stuff. So that was my first experience, and I didn't know what to make of it.
So with these portals, like I know you've had hundreds of experiences with these, which I think is amazing. Can you maybe share like a couple of your like, oh, this was profound.
The one that was kind of the most different, um, there's a two-dimensional world. I
Mm.
can't really explain. Yeah, I can't explain how we get there, but it's through the portal. And eventually the portals went from an oval to my full peripheral vision. Now, when you're using your third eye, your vision is a much wider range.
Mm.
So it's like going from a 65-inch TV to a 200-inch TV.
Wow.
So you know your visual range is so much better.
Mm-hmm.
So it opened up fully, and then I visited a two-dimensional world, and basically what it was is black and white. There was a mountainous terrain, and there was these creatures that were kind of like birds. They had the shape, but everything was very sharp on their features. But when you're connected to a portal, it's not just a visual.
Mm.
You are able to see, feel, and connect with, if there's somebody else there or
Yeah.
the environment, you automatically know what it's like. So I knew they were there, but I also knew that they could be very dangerous. It
Oh,
was just weird. But they knew that I wasn't harmful. It's like
right.
walking into a den of wild animals and them knowing that you're not dangerous, and you knowing that they're not dangerous, so you feel comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
And that was the only time that I've seen that two-dimensional area, but it was more of a connection with something that I had absolutely no idea that even existed. And it's weird that we can connect with things that are so far from us that it was amazing. I think that was the thing, that was the connection that has probably affected me the most.
Wow. And then do you teach people how to access these portals?
Yeah, what I did was, it got to a point probably at about 6 or 7 years into it, where sometimes I would just end up in this one area, and it almost felt like I was stuck because you can't change your vision. It just all stays static. It's like a camera that doesn't have pan or zoom or tilt or anything. Once you get that view, then that's it. So I just kind of took it for granted, and I was thinking, well, this is really not going anywhere. I felt like I was just in a lull. So at the time, I had 2 kids, full-time job, and going to school. So I really didn't put a lot of effort into it. I still journaled like I've always done. And then it got to a point where I would start to see what I say people, but they were in a robed figure, like in a monk's robe, dark brown. And then I couldn't see any faces, and they would move around within that portal, but then I wouldn't really see much more of them. They didn't communicate. These nighttime portals, it was just pretty much, I got to see. I didn't get to communicate. I didn't have any other, there was no conversations or anything. But it was a lot. Then it started getting a lot of symbolism, papers with nothing but foreign languages written on there, made in symbols. And it would just go by so fast that I couldn't retain it, and I didn't understand it. So I was getting frustrated. So at that point, I decided I needed to do something else in order to kind of progress. So I was in the middle of at least a 2 to 3 hour drive every day back and forth to work. So I started to notice that I would kind of doze off or daydream to a point where things were starting to come in. I didn't understand it. And it took me about 2 years to figure out how to access it. And then once I did, I just started utilizing that progression. It's just basically going from the difference is like an alpha to a beta state, or a beta to a theta state, in brainwaves. So once I figured it out, then I started writing down that information, because that information was actually meeting with others, but the whole time I was listening. So I would get that information, come out, write it down. And so it took me probably about 6 months of doing that to retain most of the information. It's like, once you break beyond the veil, you can attain the information, but once you come back, then that information is almost always erased. It's like a hard drive. As soon as you walk through the magnetic field, it takes it out. So it took a lot of practice just to get to the point where I could retain that information and bring it back with me.
What is some of the information that you were able to retain and bring back with you?
Most of the information is personal. It's just about me. But what it is, the information is, and I've watched a couple of your videos, and I understand what a lot of other people are saying when they say, I just know the information is true and it's real. The information, it's, some of it is just like, okay, that makes total sense. Yeah, that I believe it. Other information I've received is, I didn't realize that when I was going, accessing them during the day, that it was actually a portal, until I was told that it's actually a portal. But what they told me was, what I can see, they can also see on the other end. So it's an open portal. They can see me as well as I can see them. And I didn't know that. But these portals are more of a communication type of portal, because the one at night, they were just me visually seeing something. But with this one, there was communication back and forth. And then I was also told that I could leave them open, which that was unacceptable to me. There's two ways to do it, but I'm not going to leave them open, because everybody, I don't care if it's in the spiritual realm or a different dimension, everybody's got their own agenda. And so I'm not buying into some of the stuff. I have to be very selective when I see something or hear something, and I have to base it on how I really feel about it, and that wasn't acceptable.
Right.
So there's but most of the information is either personal, they're telling me something based upon it. Recently I met it's a non-physical being, but they're in a physically created body, and it's like a metallic body, and the female type and the male type have two different color renditions that's similar to what I have in my book. On the front cover of the book, you'll see where the green and the yellow are. Yeah, that's one. It's either the male or female, and then the other one is a orange and a yellow. So that's the only way you can tell. They're kind of like a lightning bolt and so I met them, and I came into a meeting, and they're the only ones that ever told me that I was kind of intruding, because I can't tell where I'm going to show up at.
Right.
So where I show up at, everybody's been really, really accepting
Right.
and welcoming, but that was the first set of beings that really wasn't happy with it. So
well, you asked to go there.
well, I don't know. See, when I show up somewhere, I don't have the control of where I land. So I open it up, and that's where I'm at. So the portals in a way decide. And in the beginning, when this started happening, I wasn't powering these up. There's a certain amount of energy that takes to power the portal up for somebody to open one. When I opened these in the daytime, the most recent one, I call them glimpses. It's you can only do this for a certain period of time. What happens is the connections will stop, and then they'll degrade to a point where you can't connect again. So it takes some effort from one side to open it, but then you have to retain the energy in order for it to stay open.
Wow. Now, your purpose is to share these forgotten connections with our population and to reacquaint people with their abilities and their spiritual selves. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, since I was able to access them controllably, so what I want to do is I want to get together with a small group and then go through the process. And then with a small group, we have the ability to get together. You have obviously more minds to get together, come up with ideas to actually get the process a little bit smoother. And then I know that other people can access it. Then they might have other ideas to maybe quicken it or whatever. So that was my whole idea. But for the simple fact that I've had 26 years of these experiences, this isn't something that I want to keep to myself. I got to the point finally where they said, write the book, which is just basically just information. I wanted to keep it short, no fat in it, just straight to the point. That's all. And so if people were either interested or not, but these can be used for communication, travel, or many other things. So once you're able to access them, then if we could do it on a regular basis, you don't really need most of the technology that we have. I think this is what medicine men and several other different types of folks used to use in the past, but we just don't have a history of it. It was something that was lost, and now it's.
Oh, that's amazing. So you're looking right now to kind of get a group together to kind of explore this more and to see how you guys can access portals together as like a collective.
Well, yeah, what we want to do is so that when we come out and present it to people, we can say,
Yeah.
hey, we looked at it from all different angles. We found the easiest way to maneuver through
Hmm.
this, to be able to access it. And then it's just easier to teach people how to do it. If you've got, because if you have one teacher, the teacher can't always, they're not on the same level as everybody else. Some people are going to learn a little bit better, but if you've got 4 or 5 different
Yeah.
viewpoints of it, then it makes it easier for people to understand and maybe accept, and also to access.
No, I like how you said that you this may have been a practice that was, in the past with medicine men and whatnot. What do you feel is the benefit of accessing these portals?
Well, I think the first thing is it allows you the ability to be able to connect and understand that there's so much more out there
Mm.
than what we see on a daily life. I mean, I'm the first victim that, even though these were happening to me, I was so wrapped up in my daily life that I
Mm.
would just put them on the side. I wouldn't pay attention to them because I had more important things to do. But then I had to eventually focus inward and say, okay, I need to do something with this, because I'm not going to progress until I initiate something.
Mm.
And it kept pushing. It really did. I kept having instances that would happen, and then I would just kind of brush it off. And then I'm the type of guy that you really need to kick me in the butt in order to get me to get moving
Yeah.
sometimes. Well, I finally got the message and I said, okay, let's do it, and let's start pushing forward.
I love that. Can you tell us a little? So you astral travel, and when you were young, ages what were your 5 to 10? Like that's, and that you can look back now and doing that. Do you ever moments where you were maybe scared or uncomfortable with that experience?
Well, when I was a kid, it freaked me out because, when you're a kid, and I'm scared of heights.
Me too.
At the time, I was really scared
And
of
yet you're
heights. And,
traveling through portals.
well, I didn't have the portal experiences when I was a kid that I
Yeah.
can remember, but I didn't understand what it was. It wasn't normal. And
Mm.
I thought, man, if somebody finds out about this, I'm going to be ridiculed or sent to the state hospital. Who knows? I mean, my parents are pretty straightforward, so they're
Yeah.
not into anything really spiritual. So I really don't even know what they would have thought about it. And I certainly wasn't going to tell them.
Did you share it with anyone when you were a child?
Realistically, I didn't share even the portals with anybody other than maybe 3 or 4 people this whole 26 years. This year is when I released the book, is the first time I've told anybody else.
Wow. Wow. Okay, tell us. I know you said that your book is no fat, but tell us a little bit more about your book.
The book is just basically starts out as, when I was younger, I
Hmm.
started having these experiences and I didn't really know what they were.
Hmm.
Then I read about the out of body, and then so what I did was I went by the steps in Robert Monroe's Journeys Out of the Body to become conscious while I was in a dream.
Hmm.
And so I kept trying it and trying it and trying it. And then finally, like I said, I was successful. But then I found another book. It's called Beyond the Astral Planes. And
Mm.
it's by an author named Solitaire Park.
Mm.
And he happened to be living here in Phoenix as well. I went to a local metaphysical bookstore back in the 90s. And at the time, his book just came out. He self-published. And Jan Ross was the owner. She's a psychic. And she walked up to me and she goes, maybe you'll be interested in this book. And as soon as she handed it to me, I'm like, this is it. This is
Aw.
what I've been looking for. It had a lot of answers. And what it says is called Beyond the Astral Planes.
Mhm.
And that's really what it is. It
Right.
lays out a map of what's beyond it,
That's
and
amazing.
as well as techniques in order to access it.
Hmm.
So that gives you more fuel. I ended up contacting the author a couple of years after these portals started, and we had a pretty good discussion on it after
Hmm.
he thought about it, and he said, "This is where I think you're at," but he says, "I think maybe you're on some." He goes, "I think you might be, just starting new ground," and he goes, "I really don't know." He goes, "I can't answer why this is happening or how it's happening or where
Right.
you're actually at." So then I had to figure it out. I always looked on the internet and I looked around to try to figure out, if anybody had portal experiences and
Mm.
this, that, and I haven't accessed any. I even went to local chiefs and different Indian tribes and spoke with them because I know they have Indian hieroglyphics and that
Yeah.
for portals, but nobody really has any information that I could access from
Mm.
it. So
That is
But
amazing.
yeah, so the book actually goes through, tells about some of my portal experiences, then
Mhm.
along how I discovered how to access it myself during the day, called glimpses.
Right.
And then it kind of just goes on and gives a little bit more information on, how I'd like to get together with people and teach people how to do it, because I believe that's the whole reason behind it.
Yeah, absolutely. And then let's go to, if somebody is interested in maybe joining your group, what is the best way to reach out to you? Is it through your Facebook page?
Yeah, just a Facebook page. It's
Okay.
under My Dark Explorations. If people have got, I started posting things, and I'll eventually, be putting more information on there. But I pretty much just started it,
I love it.
so there's not a lot of information yet. I mean, if people have questions, I can definitely answer them.
Mhm.
But I just wanted to get the information out here. I think it's the
Yeah.
main thing, is just to share it.
I think it's a fascinating thing. Like I know that some of the work that I do is traveling through different dimensions, and you go into this tetrahedron like energetic bubble. So it's I'm curious. I'm like, oh, I'm definitely going to get your book and read it, because I find I'm going to check out some portals, like, because I'm traveling off to different dimensions. But I would like to see what a portal's like.
Right. And the thing is, once you've done it, it's easy to access them.
Hmm.
It's just, as long as you have enough energy available to
Yeah.
keep them open for a brief amount of time. But you really don't need to spend much time in there, because the information, as soon as you cross over and you're conscious of it, it just comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just
It's like
it's
that
just a constant
knowing.
stream. Right,
Yeah.
exactly. So it just, at first, it's bringing it back. That's the
Mm,
hardest part.
that
You
is
know
so
it's
cool.
there, but it's just like I said, once you're able to pierce the veil and bring that information
Yeah.
back, was the very hardest part.
Oh my goodness. Well, I appreciate you so much. The fact that you've been on this journey for 26 years, and now you're kind of, all right, now I know I'm going to share this because more people need to learn this. So I do have another question for maybe
Okay.
somebody who is astral traveling and not aware that they're doing it, or maybe, having an overwhelming experience with that. Any piece of advice you can give to them?
Well, in the astral, you're just one step away from the physical.
Mm,
There's I think it's 12 or 13 levels of the astral, and
mm,
beyond that is another state called the dream state. So when you leave the physical, you go in, you travel into the astral with your spirit.
mm-hmm,
And then when you're beyond the astral, there's a thing called the dream state, and that's where your soul travels to.
mm,
That's when you have the double separation. Once you're past the astral, then you're using large amounts of energy, and you've got to really pay attention.
mm-hmm,
Um, I would say the most important part of anybody doing anything, whether it's astral or not, is visualization. That is your
mm,
number one. That's going to be your number one benefit. If you daydream a lot, that's great. If you visualize, that's good. Be able to visualize even if you're driving, so that you can
mm,
concentrate on one thing and visualize it. If you have that benefit, that is going to pay you back many times,
mm,
because that allows your brain,
mm-hmm,
the ability to travel into uh, another brain level. What
mm-hmm.
I say is, my best, the information I can give somebody that best describes it is, you are where you're at is based on your point of focus.
Mm,
Wherever you focus is where you're going to be. You don't need to leave your house in order to see multiple dimensions. You can see more from your house than you can anywhere else. It's your point of focus. That's the main point that I always tell everybody. Your point of focus determines where you are at. And when you change your brain activity,
mm-hmm,
that is going to change your focus, and it takes you away from the physical. Now, everybody tells us that we're bound by the laws of gravity and the different physical laws. You are only bound by those laws when your point of focus is on the physical. When your point of focus is beyond the physical, you're not bound by any of those laws.
oh, that's really important to say.
Mm-hmm.
I like that. Does that go into, like, I know that I've read about when people astral project, they have to make sure to tether themselves to a physical body. So if my point of focus is out of that, then I don't necessarily have to do that.
Well, the tether, the silver line, is always connected. So
Okay.
your body is connected to the spirit by this silver line, and then
Mhm.
you have another one that's even thinner that connects your spirit to your soul. Okay, so there's three parts to your, it's like the Holy Trinity. You have three
Mhm.
parts to each person: physical, spiritual, and soul. So that is always going to be there. You don't have to focus on it, because that's
Okay.
where that's if the line were to either break at some time, if you didn't connect them back together, they'll self-heal. If you didn't connect them back together, then you could physically die if that was the case. But you would have to do something so out of the ordinary, it probably will never happen.
Mhm. Mhm.
But most people, if you're in the astral, I would say explore. But as with anything else, even because we're dealing with beings from either spiritual beings or anything from out of our reality,
Mhm.
you have to remember they all have their own agendas,
Right.
you know, and you can't take everything at face value. You have to think about what you're being told and bring it back with you. Don't agree to anything until you've really consciously thought about it, because you don't know where that information's coming
Right.
from. And as you know here, it's like if you're walking down the street, you're not going to believe everything everybody tells you. It's the same thing there. I'm having a connection, but it's, as far as I know, I've never had a problem. It's a protected connection.
Right.
And that's what I appreciate with it. And then when somebody's telling me that I can leave it open or there's a gateway, I'm not going to do that, because at that point I'm no longer protected, and it's an
Mhm.
open gateway. It means it can travel from both ways.
Right. Right.
And so far, with all these portal connections, there has been no traveling from one side to the other. I have
Nice.
entered them before,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I have created them,
Mhm.
but so far there hasn't been any issue with it. And I believe the ones that originally exposed me to the portals are the ones that how would I say it? They watch over them,
Mm.
and
Like
they're
the
aware of what's
Guardians.
happening. I have no idea. All
Mm.
I know is the information that I got is they don't speak my language, but they obviously know what's going on.
I love
So,
that.
and I don't know, I've talked to a lot of people, and nobody else happens to know. So the only way I find out is through, you know, trying myself. And that's why I want to get a couple of people on
Yeah.
board, because it's easier when you have multiple minds working on a
Mhm.
project. You come to a solution much faster.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's so true. Every time you say that, I keep thinking about like light language and that sacred geometric, language. It's just
Right.
fascinating. So I
Yeah.
think
And it was brought to us by many. There's so many
absolutely.
more advanced, either entities or whatever in the
Mhm.
universe, that it's just unbelievable, and we're probably on the caveman status of a lot of them.
Oh, I totally agree with you. 100%. Well, Mike, I want to say thank you so much for joining me on the Spiritual Spotlight series. If anyone is interested in going to Mike's group, just reach out to him on Facebook. And then for your book, is that available on Amazon or somewhere
Yes.
else? Amazon?
Yes. And if you have Amazon Prime, I think it's free for most people. So
Oh, I love that. Oh, amazing. All right, Mike, thank you again so much. I really appreciate you coming on and sharing your wisdom.
thank you for having me.